So, what are the top three lessons from all your research, Sadie?
So I would say that as a result of my PhD, which, as I said, is focusing on improving the growth performance of those really slow-growing pigs.
Mm-hmm.
So what I learned was actually that the early period of a pig's life is really critical when it comes to reducing that variation. So if you leave it too long to intervene, you're unlikely to be able to get the benefits that you want. So I always say that intervene as early as possible. So potentially we're talking at birth. And you need to have a think about what are the additional stresses that you're placing on those pigs. And then hopefully try to reduce those stresses. And that can help those pigs to try and catch up with heavier litter mates or heavier pen mates, for example, at weaning.
Yeah, interesting.
I'd also say that, sometimes it's an opinion that we have or that we hear is that if a piglet, for example, is born with a low birth weight, that, they're simply a lost cause and that actually they're never going to be able to catch up. Certainly as a result of my research, I'd say that that's definitely not the case.
Right.
And we can implement a number of different strategies to help those piglets. And actually, in some cases, these pigs can exhibit growth rates that are above average. We just have to give them the additional support that they need. And I'd also say when you consider low birth weight piglets or you consider low weaning weight piglets, they're not all the same. So we tend to just group them, all together and say, they're less than so many kilograms and they're classified as a low birth weight piglet.
Mm-hmm.
But actually, there's a difference in these pigs. So you may have some that are small at birth because they were restricted in the uterus. Mm-hmm. So they had insufficient nutrients and therefore they are born substantially smaller. Whereas you may have piglets that have a low birth weight but did not experience restriction in the uterus or experience a much lesser degree of restriction. Mm-hmm. And actually, there is a difference in how well these piglets can catch up. So it's important to consider the cause of low birth weight or the cause of low weaning weight and not just group all these pigs into one category.
Very good.
And then I would finally say that there are a number of different strategies available to benefit these slow-growing pigs that we identify early on. So I would be considering what you can do for them pre-weaning, and I'll go on to explain a few things about that in a bit. And then also post-weaning. So it should be a combined strategy rather than one particular intervention. You should be focusing on these pigs at several different points during their early life in order to give them the best chance of catching up.